Hello, my name is Janice B. Gordon. This is Scale Your Sales podcast. Welcome to the Scale Your Sales podcast, listed number 9 of 42 best podcasts for every sales professional in 2021. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, recommended by LinkedIn as one of 15 innovative sales influencers to follow in 2021. In today's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast, I speak to Timothy Hughes. Now, I interviewed Tim in episode 1. He started the Scale Your Sales podcast, and more or less exactly to the day, it's our 3rd year anniversary. So it was wonderful to have Tim on again, talking about the 2nd edition of his book. Tim Hughes is university recognized as the #1 social seller. As a world-leading pioneer and exponent of social selling, he is currently ranked as #1 by Onalytica, and he's the most influential social selling person in the world. So it's wonderful to have him on. In 2021, LinkedIn said he was one of the top 8 sales experts globally to follow. He's also co-founder and CEO of DLA Ignite and co-author of the best-selling book, Social Selling: Techniques to Influence Buyers and Change Makers and Smarketing, How to Achieve Competitive Advantage Through Blended Sales and Marketing, both of which are published by Cogent Page. Now, in this episode, we talked about the 2nd edition, what has changed. And wow, there has so much that has changed, not only in the world with the war in Ukraine, with the passing of the pandemic, so much has changed. And he talked a lot about what it takes to become a digital company, and all enterprising companies need to move in that direction. He gave lots of examples and has many more examples in the 2nd edition of companies that have actually tread that path and seen the results of it. Also talking about the 3 things that every sales professional and sales leader needs to do to ensure that they have a great digital profile, that they command their space and create great content as well. So I know you're going to really enjoy it. So thank you for joining us for the 3rd anniversary edition, and thank you to Timothy Hughes as well. So you must get his 2nd edition of the book, Social Selling. Welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Tim. It's an absolute pleasure having you on again.
I'm so excited. We talked, was it a year ago?
No, prior to the pandemic, we went out,
Right.
We had a drink. And
we did, yes.
Yeah. I must say thank you, because you were podcast #1. And we're up to like 160 or 65. So this is my 3rd year anniversary, almost to the date when you started it all. So thank you so much.
3rd year, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And Janice, I want to say, and for all the people out there listening, and I'm sure that they will agree with me, you put so much effort into this. I see so many people that say, I'm going to start a podcast, and they don't. And you do it, and you put the hours in, and you get the guests, and you get some great guests, and you put the effort in, and it's fantastic, and the results are there to be seen. So well done.
Thank you so much. So I want to talk about the 2nd edition of the revised edition of there you go, right?
Yellow cover.
The yellow cover. I've got the 1st one, and I know that you're just launching the 2nd one, so people have to go back to episode #1 where we talk about the edition 1. So let's talk about what are the changes, why you decided to revise the book. And I know that it's a #1 bestseller, it's in multiple countries, it's done so well. So why not just ride on the wave? Why revise it?
It's interesting you asked that. It still sells. I wrote it in 2015. It came out in 2016. and it still sells, but it needed updating. There's been so many things have changed. You know, back in 2016, the use of social was fairly immature. And even though I wrote we had customers, we didn't have customers. And I started DLA Ignite, my company, with Adam Gray back in 2016. And we've been together now for, this is our 7th year. And there's so many things that we've done and so many experiences that what I wanted to do was update the text and update so people get an updated view about what social selling and being digital today is all about. And there's so many things, you know, COVID happened in those 2 years. And we went from being something that was quite niche to suddenly everyone's going, I need to sit at home and be able to sell. How do I do that? So in June COVID, the book sales just went back up again. It was amazing. I've been through the whole of the book. I took 2 weeks off before Christmas, 2022. And I went through the whole of the book, updating the text. I also have written an additional 30% more. And then I also went out to 15 practitioners and said, you're using social at the moment, explain, can you write me something? So we've got contributions, well, the forwards by Mark Schaefer. We've got contributions from customers like Cyberhawk, Telstra, RingCentral, Namos, who are an Oracle reseller. I've got people like Danielle Guzman, Anita Veseli from Ericsson, Robert Turl, who's a headhunter, Adam Gray, who's my business partner, Eric Doyle, who's one of our partners. All of those people taken parts out of the book, or said, in my book, it says this, can you write something practical about what you're doing? So practical about how you're building community using podcasts and live streaming. What does a digital organization look like? What does practical use of employee advocacy look like? What does a practical, with Anita, it's about a practical application of a digital business in Ericsson. And Robert Turl, for example, he's a headhunter. So he's written about what you need to do to get a job in using social. And it's not what most people think, which is put their CV online. So we've now gone from 187 pages to over 300. For me, I'm really proud of it. We've completely updated it, transformed it. It's the social selling for 2023, really.
That's incredible, because normally when people issue a second edition, it's because, you know, there's a few things that have got a bit old. There's, you know, they kind of like teeter around the edges. This is like a wholesale change. You have your methodology, which is core to social selling for practitioners, but you've added all of the different practitioners as well to really bring it to life, and, you know, more or less doubled the size of the book. So it's like, I'm going to have to trade this in.
Yeah, well, I probably need to do a trade-in. Yeah, yeah. So much has happened in the last 6 years, and I talk about some of the things which are now, well, for me is kind of every day, but for some organization is quite advanced. You know, most people don't actually use social as an ability to sell where they should be. You know, we've just been through one of the biggest transformations in the world's history and mankind's history in the move to digital, just like the transformation that people went through during the industrial age. But people are still cold calling and doing analog things. You know, I look out over LinkedIn and you see these successful organizations, and these people don't understand how to walk digital corridors and have digital conversations. And that's one of the things I talk about in the book. It's a criticality now to be able to do that, to understand. You know, most people are just scared of actually doing anything on social media. We know everybody, you know, Salesforce, HubSpot, McKinsey also say that the world is transformed to digital. They all say that the buyer is on digital. You talk to any buyer, they say, oh yeah, of course I go online and I research stuff. It's a normal thing. We do it ourselves, but we haven't actually made that transformation from our analog world, which is we're doing now, and then talking and going into the digital world. So one of the things that we talk about, I talk about in the book, is about having there's a digital twin situation now, where we have there's us here in the analog world, but we also have there's us in the digital world. And what I mean by that is who we are on LinkedIn, who we are on Twitter, who we are on any form of digital platform. And the thing is what we're able to do now is do so much. So, for example, when I first started in sales, there was always a magazine, you know, the trade magazine for the area that you're in. And you would go through it every month, it would come out. And if you had a story in it, it would be great. And if the competition had a story in it, you were depressed for the whole day. How did they do that? Now, what we're able to do is we're able to define that ourselves. We're able to define the narrative. So in the past, we may have used PR companies. Now we can do that ourselves with digital. So one of the questions that we ask businesses, who is the leading technical and commercial influencer in your marketplace? Because you can start, anybody can start a podcast. The fact that I have just proves the point. Anybody can do it. And the thing is that, you know, what you do when you set up a live stream or a podcast is you start defining the narrative. One of the things about your podcast, Janice, is you're defining the narrative around a particular niche around sales. You know, if you're a business and you sell, you're in oil and gas or you're in IT, you can actually start defining this now. You can actually start setting the agenda. And we're seeing this, you know, there's a company in Aberdeen called OGV Energy. And what they've done is that they've in effect taken what was their magazine and they're now running it as a live stream. Their competition are going ballistic because of the fact that here they are. They're the people that have they're the people that step forward. OGV Energy taken a step forward. They're the people that are creating the narrative, and they're creating this anchor in the energy market and saying, this is what energy is about. And the competition are desperately trying to catch up. And this is what people can do now with digital. You know, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter how big your organization is. In fact, you know, this is a classic David and Goliath. You know, as a small business, you can actually set up a live stream and you say, this is what this business is about. And you get your suppliers, you get your customers on, you know, talk about different things. And you are the person then that's actually driving that narrative, and everybody else has to catch up. There's so much opportunity in digital, and you know, businesses have got to catch up.
So you've talked about a lot, and I want to pick up on a few things. So why do you think it is that there's such a lag, a resistance of sellers to really understand that their buyers are already on digital? And even though you've mentioned there's a fear, there's this resistance, why do you think that 2 years on, because we talked about this 3 years ago, 2 years on, there is still so many individual professional sellers that are relying on analog skills?
I think first and foremost is that there's a lot of organizations that want to go back to where we were before, and we're not going back. It's like, you know, you've walked through a door and the door's closed behind you and there's no handle or anything. You can't go back. And all of these things like the Great Resignation and the Great Reset, it's just proof of that. It's not just about our attitudes have changed, and our ability to be on digital has changed as well, and an expectation. Why are people not doing that? I don't know. I think it's because there's if you take the average sales leader, he may have, or she may have been in business for 20 years, and there's a toolbox, the classic toolbox, which they reach into the toolbox and get out the tools that they've used for the last 20 years. And the answer to that will be cold calling. Well, you need to make more calls. Well, you know, I'm in sales Reddit groups, and the view is if you're not making 1,000 calls and using an auto dialer, you won't make any headway with cold calling. And LinkedIn say, you know, cold calling now has a 98% failure rate. So, you know, if you're sending email, again, the fact that people can report you for spamming. There was a person on Reddit who was basically saying, if you're not building various things because you get reported for spam, if you're sending out emails, what happens is you just get reported for spam. And, you know, technically it just isn't feasible. So there's a whole thing that you need to be doing in terms of carrying on with that stuff. But the thing is that people don't understand that there is other people. You know, social selling isn't new. You know, we've been teaching people to social sell for 6 years now. We have people that are completely outselling the competition. I have customers complaining to me about how much pipeline they've got, and they can't basically sort them out of pipeline. We have one customer that actually they're selling so much it impacts on the supply chain. Now, we also have a whole bunch of people, but we also talk to the average salesperson. They haven't got any pipeline because the old, come on, let's be honest, the old ways are dead. We can dance around and say, oh yeah, someone said recently to us, oh yeah, we're getting a 6% return from cold calling, so it's a 94% failure rate. Do you not think that there's a more efficient, effective way of actually doing this stuff? And I just think that people are putting their fingers in his. I get salespeople coming to me begging me to teach them to do social selling, and I'm saying I can't. For a start, I have to earn money somehow.
Yeah.
You need to get your people. So I can be in a situation where I have there's a sales enablement company where I went to the sales leader, and the sales leader says, our team do not need to know how to social sell. I have the salespeople begging me for social selling skills. On this, LinkedIn conversations on DMs, and I'm saying to the salesperson, you need to talk to this person because he says you don't need the skills. And I think what I try with the book is about trying to enable people to form a discussion and to get people to realize that this isn't something new. This isn't something about the future. This is in effect, it's part one is the past. We've moved on, but the fact that I've changed so much of the wording in that, we have moved on so much. In terms of digital dominance is another thing that I talk about in the book. It's about how you as a business can just own the narrative, not just about using live stream, but by just you people going online, connecting to people, having conversations with people, and excuse me, putting out content that people are interested in, content that incites and engages and entertains people, because that's what people are looking for. They're not looking for brochures. And what you're able to do as a business is completely own the narrative of that. So Cyberhawk are a great example of how the C-suite are the people that are online. The CMO, the COO, the CRO, the CEO, the CIO, and the CFO are all socially active. They're all using in social in different ways. The CIO, for example, is connecting with other CIOs to say, what systems have you got? I'm really interested. We're a growing business. I'm looking for your advice. The CFO is connecting with people, and because they're looking for funding. So he's looking for and connecting with VCs. So this isn't just about selling anymore. This is about having a digital business and running it. And Chris Fleming the CEO gives a great quote about what for him a digital business is. And this is, as I say, this is not some future state. This is now. Cyberhawk are completely outselling their competition. They've got into massive accounts that a small business could never, ever get in. They've got, contracts that they never would have dreamed about. And their VC is basically saying that they're going to IPO faster, quicker, for a higher value because of the fact that they're doing this stuff in digital.
So
why wouldn't people
how does that work with an organization like this? Is it, because it's almost a completely different mindset to be thinking about business as a digital business, is thinking about it in a completely different way. It's not what we're trained on or that we grow up with. So what does it take for a CEO, the CIO, or this group of people to come together and think, okay, we're going to do it differently. We're creating this digital business. What is the starting point for that? Because there are a lot of businesses that are the bricks and mortar, that are the old mindset of being educated in what business is. So how do you transition to be that dynamic digital business? How does that happen?
So we've got one client, and what they're doing is that they've got a bunch of, they've picked 5 what they call change makers in their organization. And what they're doing is that they're completely reassessing the sales and marketing process. They know it's broken, but they don't know how and why it's broken. And what they're doing is that they've broken it down, and they're going out and they're looking at different methods. And we're helping them with this. Now, what we do is about social empowerment. But what they've seen is that the fact that they know that they've read, and they know that they need to be digital, and therefore what they're doing is completely reassessing the process. There's an adult conversation going on, whereas quite often what you see are people are basically saying, "This is my stuff. I want to keep it." We can go into organizations, and most organizations, once they start being digital, they don't need to pay for Google ads. You don't need to pay. If you empower your HR team with social and digital, you don't need to pay for recruitment consultants. You don't need to pay for advertising for recruitment, because you get the people. You can become the employer of choice. You don't need to offer people a 4-day week. You can still offer people a 5-day week, because of the fact that people actually see you as an organization, see you out on digital, and say, that's the company I want to work for. Because the modern job hunter, unless they've just been laid off and they need to get a job, it's the job hunter that says, I want to come and work with an organization, and I want to work there for 5 or 10 years. The same as the modern buyer. What they're doing is that they're going online, and they're looking at the CEO. They're looking at where's your culture? I was talking to a big company recently, and they said, we can't understand it. We can't get anybody. I said, why not? They said, we've got women's groups. We've got diversity training. We've got diversity groups. We've got Black people that are promoting diversity internally. We've got disabled. We're doing all these things, but we can't get anybody. I said, do you tell anybody about it? They said, no. I said, well, if you're not telling, it's great having it all internally, and I think it's great that you've got all those things, because it's great that you're promoting and bringing everybody on board. It's what you're being is inclusive. But if you're not going out and externalizing that, the moment that you externalize that culture and say, here's a tech company, we welcome Black people coming to work for us, you would get Black people applying, because I bet you don't get any at the moment. And it's like, so immediately what you're going to do is you change the sphere of influence of the business. You get people wanting to work there. You got people wanting to buy from you. It just changes things so much. And the 3 things are having great LinkedIn, having a great presence on social media. A presence not about you. Well, some of it is about you, because what I do, Janice, when I connect with you, I connect with you. I know you, Janice, because I know you. It's about having a network, having a digital territory. So whether you're in sales or whether you're in HR, it's about making sure that you're connected. I had a call earlier today, and they said, you seem to be everywhere. Well, not really. I just spent a couple of years building a network. And the 3rd thing you need is content, not brochures and not the rubbish that marketing's creating. This is about you creating content, authentic content. Think about the things, the business issues that are impacting on your customers, and write about them. That you're an expert. In B2B, we're all experts of what we sell. The first thing we do when we come on a call with a new client is, I've been in this market for 5 years, and I know you know that you're an expert. And you spend your time becoming that. And that's what people are looking for. They're looking for people that have that expertise. So Namos, who are an Oracle reseller, the CEO told me a story. It was actually on my podcast. And they had a person who's a buyer who's online on LinkedIn looking for a solution to a problem. Found the salesperson and said, can you help me? And there's a standard conversation that was been going on for 20 or 30 years between the customer and that turned into a $2.6 million deal. They've just taken another $500,000 out of them. Now, you can get, $100, $1,000 deals, but there's people doing big deals on social media. And if you're not doing it, you're leaving that money on the table massively. And I see these people that are cranking out these cold calls on that, or what they're doing is that they're tinkering around the edges. Oh, we'll get someone in to talk about LinkedIn for 2 hours. Won't make any change. This is the biggest industrial change that's taken place in the last 100 years. And I can tell you a 2-hour talk about LinkedIn will not make a change. You need to be thinking about a methodology, a way of working, and a way of empowering your people. And for some people that's scary, because it means that they're going to go on social media and say things. But that's the way it is today. You either do that or you ain't going to be in business. We're going to see a massive shakeout over the next 5 years where people have decided. We're seeing it right now where, there's one of my friends said to me, he said, I'm 5 years away from retirement. I don't want to get involved in this social stuff. My management's trying to get me to create some content. So he changed jobs. So he went to a place where they're analog and he said, I'm going to sit this out until I retire. And what you're seeing is this convergence of analog and digital. And the analog companies, maybe some of them are profitable, but the digital companies are the ones that are going to survive. And there's going to be a massive shakeout over the next 5 years as, we've had all these things. COVID's hit us, the war in Ukraine's hitting us, the cost of living crisis, prices, supply chain, all of these things are going to have an impact. And it's always going to be the digital people that are going to win.
So Timothy, do you feel with all of these challenges and changes, we've just gone through COVID, the war in Ukraine, the fact that buyers are way ahead of where many sellers are, there's so many, technological changes. Do you feel positive about the industry, the sales industry, the relationship it has? Or are you concerned about the way things are moving forward, the pace of change, and whether we will continue to be competitive? Because these are our customers, aren't they? Even the ones that are remaining in analog, if they're not moving, then we don't have an opportunity to help to modernize. So I'm interested in what you think.
I think that we're into the golden age of selling. I think that this is a great opportunity for salespeople. We've always talked about sales as being a profession which is equivalent to lawyers or bankers. Many of us, like myself, are proud of the professionalism that we provide as salespeople, and what we have here is that golden age of, in effect, being able to help people. Because that's what buyers are looking for, especially in the B2B space. They may be looking for something that they haven't bought before, and what they're looking for is someone that can help them, that they can know, like, and trust, and that's a wonderful thing. So yeah, I'm very upbeat. So some organizations just won't get it, but that's always been the case. During the last industrial revolution, there were companies went to the wall because they didn't invest into the new ways of working as part of that industrial revolution, and companies have always fallen by the wayside over time. It's kind of the circle of life for business. But those that invest in digital and actually understand and empower, from what we're seeing, there's the sky's the limit.
Yeah. I did a keynote a couple of months ago talking about frictionless businesses, and I did a straw poll of the audience of salespeople whether they think the sales process is dead, as I think. And it was really interesting. People were reluctant to vote because they kind of had an inkling of it, but they didn't know what would replace it. So there was a real kind of struggle in my view is just you need to throw it out and look at the impact you want to have on the customer. Start with the buyer in mind, be really customer centric, and build back your process based on that. So what's your view?
I think there's a lot of starting with the customer in mind. It sometimes can come across as a bit of a cliche, but in fact, it's what we're doing is that we're solving problems. We've always done that. That's actually nothing new. And all we're doing is all we're doing is saying there's a problem, right? Right. You don't know that I can solve that. Now I can do two things. I can ring you up and say I can solve it, and the natural reaction to that will always be go away, because actually it's a psychological condition of humans. It's a fight or flight. The moment that you get it, so what you're doing is that if I've got a great profile online, therefore you go, that looks interesting. So don't forget, your LinkedIn profile is a shop window to 850 million people, and 850 million people walk past it every day, and someone will go, do you know, that looks interesting, or I wouldn't touch that person with a barge pole. The next thing is to make sure that you're connected to people, and that isn't sending them spamming messages. This is about having, what we sell in B2B requires a conversation. So what we need to do is have conversations. So being on LinkedIn is a bit like being at a networking event, where we go up to someone and say, hey, Janice, I haven't seen you for ages. So what are you up to? Have you been on holiday? Oh, wow. Isn't it? I've seen your photos on Instagram. Isn't it great how you seem to be on holiday all the time? And it's a conversation. It's not about pitching or, hey, buy my product because it's great, because everybody says that. The current thing on LinkedIn at the moment is that people connect with you and say, I'm thinking of putting a pitch deck together. Would you review it with me? And it's like, no, you're just trying to sell me something. Please don't insult my intelligence. And then the third thing you need is the content. And the content is about your way of saying, I understand these business issues. So, one of the things that, my blog that I was going at today is about why organizations need to have a social media department, because social media to date is kind of hidden in a cupboard in marketing somewhere. And actually there's some great things that you can get from social media, because I kind of alluded to that over this discussion. And that needs to sit somewhere in an organization. It could sit with the board. It could sit within a particular department or a digital department. But the fact of the matter is, it's I write the article, and then someone will go, do you know, I hadn't thought about that. That's really interesting. Oh, and I get people contacting me and go, do you know that article? Now I do a lot of articles, so I don't know which one they're talking about. And they say, it will say this. And what's really interesting is the way that when you write something, how it resonates. And this is about finding, you're the expert, right? Whether it's telco, oil and gas, whatever, you know what the business issues are. And if you don't, go to a customer and say, I need to write some content. Tell me what your business issues are. And they'll tell you, and then you've got content. And it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process of showing that you're the expert. And what you do is, so I post every day on LinkedIn. So every day my people go, oh, look, there's Tim Hughes at Social Selling. Oh, there's Tim Hughes at Social Selling. There's Tim Hughes at Social Selling. Of course, when they want to do some social selling, what do? There's that Tim Hughes guy, isn't it? I always see it every day on my LinkedIn process. We'll give them a call. And they know, like, and trust me, I'm connected to them, and I'm there, and it's there constant. I don't need to be scamming or trying to get on #1 on Google. I can do that because actually the people that are searching, we know, are actually on social media more than actually on Google. So what's happening is you've built the relationship, you're connecting to people, you're having conversations, they know who you are. When it comes for them to buy, you're there. You're front of mind. And I'm just giving that's a very simplistic way of describing it. There's more detail involved in that, which is what we do when we explain and we teach people and coach people around this. But when you say to people, I use in blogs that I have this thing in one of my blogs where I say, tomorrow I could, you got a Target account. Tomorrow I can meet you in the foyer. I've got a card to get you in. We can come in. We can go to the department where you want to sell, and I can walk you around and I can introduce you to everybody in that department. You can build a relationship with them. we can then go to the boss and you can go and have a conversation with them as well. Wouldn't you want to do that? And not do it in a way where people say, sod off.
Yeah.
Do it in a way
there's no
where
gatekeeper.
Yeah, there's no gatekeeper. There's no gatekeeper. And it's literally what we do when we teach people how to social talk. You can literally walk. So you can go into a competitor. We teach people to go into their competitors and basically come up and basically connect to all the people and then take the account off people. Because it's actually, it is that simple. But it does mean that you need to do some work, but that's what sales about. Sorry, Janice.
Yeah, and you can only take the account of people if the account is not happy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but I can, we can go in and we're working with a large PC type company, and they're doing it in their competitive accounts. So what we're doing is that we're basically getting them and saying, right, this is how you connect to all the people. This is how you build relationships and have conversations with all these people. And then when, as you know, in 18 months' time, when the big contract comes up, you're going to be on the shortlist at least. And then it's down to your, I will have connected you to all the people. You will have had all those conversations. You're going to be on the shortlist. And then it's down to your ability as sales execute. And you'll win the account because you'll know more people and have more conversations, and they'll go, company A doesn't know us. Company B, I see all their stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And this is happening. And this is for real. And if you're not doing, and if you're watching this and you're not doing this, you are behind and you need to catch up.
And the beauty is that the fundamentals don't change in building relationships, know, like, trust. But it's just the modem, the methodology has changed slightly. It's only slightly, and the mindset to actually want the willingness to do it as well. This has been absolutely fascinating. I love talking with you, and I haven't even got to like the music, the kind of like the I know one of your loves LP and your digital a record shop and all of that side of things. So we'll go another 3 years, perhaps less than that, and we'll have to do this again, Tim. But thank you so much for being a guest on Scale. Hold your book up, because I'm certainly going to get
it's the yellow version.
The yellow version. I'm certain, because there's so much more edition. So thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast. If you like this discussion, feel free to listen to other episodes or watch the captioned show on YouTube and subscribe to future episodes. I would really appreciate it if you would leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you.